What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So, God of War Ragnarok, is it a next-gen game? There are questions that have arisen surrounding this particular topic, especially in the light of God of War Ragnarok having finally released its performance options and some of the pertinent issues surrounding other video games that came out in this cycle that did not come out at the 60 FPS mark. We had Gotham Knights, which runs at 30 FPS on console, and we have a Plague Tale Requiem, which also launched and runs at about 40 FPS. So the big question is, how is God of War a next generation game and so on and so forth? There are questions surrounding that nonetheless, but let's keep in mind that, God of War has been a game that has been able to leverage a PlayStation console. Sony Santa Monica is a studio that does not necessarily have to deal with the constraints that many other studios have to deal with in terms of balancing and optimizing their game for multiple platforms. Usually Sony has already taken up the work and giving that to many other studios who can just basically make the PC ports of these video games. Now, this question is not just one that jumped out of nowhere. It's a question that was actually asked to Digital Foundry, and today, I think on their Digital Foundry Weekly Direct number 84, they asked a question about this whole thing. But before we jump into that, let's look at the performance so far. 4K 30 FPS locked for resolution favors, and for performance 60 FPS. For high resolution, high frame rate, 4K 40 FPS locked. And then to favor performance, they're targeting 120 FPS. Now we're going to see how all of this plays out depending on your VRR, so on and so forth. We're probably going to realize that this game is really going to be, getting the best touch and care in terms of optimization and so on and so forth. The gentlemen at Digital Foundry were in a place where they kind of struggled to answer this question: God of War, is it a next gen game? Now the question is very interesting because they took some time to talk about how the game they thought was just a continuation of the next God of War game, because I think this gentleman over here is playing it at this moment. He's going to be doing the review and the analysis surrounding the game and technical performance, and he spoke about some areas that he's all the way allowed to speak to and then couldn't say more. But he said, he just felt like it was, if you're playing maybe Final Fantasy, 12 Part 2. That's what basically Ragnarok is going to be. It's going to be God of War 2018 Part 2. So the game is going to look similar. The game seems like it's going to play similarly. The world is going to, function in a similar way as well. So this is exactly what we should be expecting if you're going to be looking forward to the game. Now, let me go ahead and add my 2 cents to this conversation. I think the conversation surrounding a next-gen game does not really exist. I think what a lot of people are probably alluding to, in my opinion, is in their minds what a game should look like in terms of visual fidelity, what a game should probably look like in terms of, all kinds of different manner of presentation more than anything else. Some people are also much more attracted to things like, say, the way a game looks, in a sense, hyper-realistic, photorealistic, and so on and so forth. And this is where their, expectations lie. In the past few years, we've been getting more and more video games that have taken this approach. God of War, nonetheless, has taken, that kind of approach, but also mixed it in with its own unique art style. That's been so much, fun and well accepted and appreciated. So the idea about a next-gen game, in my mind, I can't seem to fathom what a lot of people are talking about. Say they were maybe asking the question of, okay, what should a game look like in this next generation of consoles? Then I think that question would probably make sense in terms of maybe performance, because art style is going to continue to prevail. If one game looks like a hyper-realistic, photorealistic game and another has more of a fantasy look, it doesn't mean one game is, in a sense, superior than the other. It just means it's the art direction and the art style that the game developers, the artists, are actually willing to go for. And I think this is a very important conversation, because there are many other games that have existed that have taken a photorealistic sense even way before the next gen or this current gen of consoles came out. One of them was Tom Clancy's The Division. The Division actually did a good job in showcasing its world, and not only did it showcase its world, it actually adapted a real life location to the best of the developer's ability to actually show New York in that 2016 game. And this is footage from it where I've been playing for the longest time. And on PC, you can actually, or you already had the capability of running the game at high frame rates, even all the way to, some really cool resolution metrics. It wasn't until the Series X came out that Microsoft was able to unlock this game, and it plays at 60 FPS on the Xbox Series X. But by and large, the game had the mood, the atmosphere, and everything that would probably pass as as what people are thinking is a next gen game in today's world, but this had already been in existence and the capability had already been out there. You know, you might bash Ubisoft for what it is that they do, but one thing that they're capable of is they're almost always at the forefront of technological advancements when it comes to video games. They can do their video games online. They can do their video games, you know, and optimize them and hit all kinds of wonderful targets. At the same time, they are probably one of those companies that gets the criticisms the most because of their open worlds, even though they do their best to represent their open worlds in the most realistic sense. So I don't necessarily see how this is probably going to be something that affects God of War Ragnarok, or a game like Gotham Knights. It decided to go ahead and take its own art direction in a very different modular way. It's one of those art directions that a lot of people are not necessarily really reconciled with. Some people think they like it. Some people have said that, you know, the open world that, you know, God of War actually does, I said God of War, that Gotham Knights actually does display is one that they feel they can actually go, you know, with. And so all of these questions really do vary as to the gamer. It really does vary as to the developer. And, you know, these questions are very simple to answer because at the end of the day, a quality game is not going to really change how you look at it. It doesn't matter what console, doesn't matter what generation, what year it comes out. We're still going to get video games of any and every sort. In fact, even the new Ninja Turtles game is a pixel-based game, but it's a game that's coming out in this time and day. So I think games are primarily supposed to be fun rather than anything else. And seeing what we've been, you know, hearing about this game, seeing, you know, the conversations, the leaks and all of that, in my opinion, I think this game is going to do a great job at presentation. It's also going to do a great job of what its main focus is, which is story. And so you can expect these things and you won't even worry if you're playing a game in quote next gen or not. Next gen to me is just a marketing term. That's all it is, because all of the different, you know, performance modes that games are being played on right now have been available for the longest time on PC. It is just now that the consoles are catching up. So how is that even something that's next gen? So I feel like this conversation should not even be had with a video game of the caliber of God of War Ragnarok. It's one of those games that is going to do its thing. It's going to leverage the hardware of the PlayStation. PlayStation 4 is a decent hardware and works very well with Sony's in-house game engines. Many of you have seen the Order 1887. That was first, you know, the very first representation of what that, you know, console and their engine could actually do. So seeing that Sony Santa Monica is already experts with all of PlayStation's, you know, first party technology, I don't think there's any need to worry about all of that. But let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Thanks so much for engaging with the videos, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.